Hey, what's up investors? Juan Pablo here. Today I'm going to share with you step 2 in our 4-step process on how we actually find and ultimately buy cash flowing multi-unit rental properties. Now with step 2, it's all about the multi-unit deal criteria. You definitely want to take some notes with this one. Now, my 4-step process for finding deals for myself as well as for others is as follows. Step 1 is in sequential order, guys, or order of priority. Step 1 is finding the money. Step 2, find the deal. Step 3, perform due diligence. And step 4, close. Now today, again, we're going to be discussing my deal criteria for multi-unit properties. Because I get that question a lot. Hey, Juan Pablo, what makes a deal a deal? Right? Especially when you're talking about rental properties, especially multi-unit rental properties. Let's get into it. All right, so let's say, you did the first phase, right? You found the money. You applied for business credit, you had your mortgage in place and so forth. You pretty much have all the capital you need to move forward with the deal. Now, let's say you've been starting step 2, right? Which is find the deal. Let's say you've been reaching out to real estate agents and wholesalers. And you got some deal flow coming in, some emails coming in regard to sweet cash flowing multi-unit properties, whether it's in your backyard or you're investing out of state. Now, being that you have deal flow coming in, you might be thinking about, well, what is your criteria one? Not so much the deal analysis aspect, but your criteria to begin with. This is my criteria. When I do the analysis on the deal, let's say the deal analysis, I do have a deal spreadsheet that I use, right? And with the spreadsheet, we pretty much analyze the property based upon 3 numbers that are critical. The first criteria is cash flow. After all the OpEx is paid, the operating expenses, that's the taxes, the insurance, property management fees, utility bills, so forth. Things that the owner or the owner has to pay for, not the tenant, okay? So after all that's paid, the operating expenses, the debt service, such as the mortgages or loans, the private money, seller financing, business credit, after all that's paid, and reserves as well, the money left over. That's the profit in your pocket, the cash flow. After all is said and done, you want a cash flow per unit. And our criteria is pretty much at least $100 per door. Now I get this question often. Well, Juan, I found a 14 unit, but it's only cash flowing $1,100. I'm gonna turn that down. Well, hold your horses, right? If you're financing in 100%, of course there's going to be additional debt service on this property, which is having an impact on your cash flow, right? It's affecting the cash flow. So with all that being stated, it still could be a good deal, simply because you're acquiring a 14 unit using 100% financing, and it's still putting profit in your pocket of $1,100 a month. So just something to consider. And another thing to consider is the market that you're investing in. Like my personal criteria is I want to cash flow at least $100 a door or more, because I know that I have a team in place that can scour deals from many different sources, right? So I can afford to be picky and choosy. You got it? As a result of my team that I have in place and the systems I have in place, okay? So the first criteria is the cash flow. The second criteria, you want to make sure you have a return, okay? Now a return, I like to aim for personally 10%, but do I compromise sometimes? Sure, it can be 9%, it can be 8.5%, but as long as I get a positive return on my out-of-pocket money invested into a property, that's what I care about. And I typically aim for 10% cash on cash return or higher. And you might be thinking, well, Juan, what is cash on cash return? It's pretty much a metric that shows you how long it takes for your cash, your out-of-pocket cash, doesn't include mortgages or anything, cash out of your pocket that you invest in towards the deal, your total out-of-pocket costs, payments that went through down payment, soft costs, and closing costs. If you're unfamiliar with that, just check out my other videos and I'll explain it. But it's pretty much the money you have out of pocket, okay? How long does it take for that to return to you? And here's the formula. You take your yearly cash flow, not monthly, but yearly cash flow, and I'll just share with you what your cash flow is, and you divide it by your total out-of-pocket costs. So for example, if your yearly cash flow is $12,000 after all expenses and debt service paid, and you invested out of pocket $48,000 to buy a 10 unit, right? Let's say you finance it using seller financing, some business credit, a mortgage or whatever, but out of your pocket, $48,000. In that scenario, your cash on cash return will be $12,000 divided by $48,000, which is, I think, 25% on the top of my head, which is a great return. That's a lot higher than 10%. Now, not every deal is going to produce a 25% cash on cash return. That was just a scenario, right? But typically, I aim for 10% or higher. Okay? Third criteria, value add opportunities. When I buy a property, I always see, well, how can I maximize my value? And that should be your goal as an investor, as a business person. Any asset that you acquire, you have to focus on how can I improve the value. And there's two ways of doing that, my friend. One way of improving value is by increasing the revenue. Simple. Decreasing expenses. That's called forced appreciation. You're forcing the appreciation of the asset by improving the performance of that asset. For multi-units, that's why I love multi-unit properties. It's easy to improve the value by how you manage it. Increase rents, decrease expenses. It's that simple. Another way is by buying a property in a positive appreciating market, right? And one of the websites I use, I love Neighborhood Scout, and it lets you know like the appreciation rate in the area. I want to make sure that appreciation rate is high, let's say 2% or higher. And the third criteria is simply buying the property less than what it's worth. That's called built-in equity. You might see that the property is worth $100,000 once you got an appraisal, but the purchase price is $92,000, right? So you have some built-in equity in that scenario. So that's pretty much the first thing I look at with multi-unit properties, right? Where my criteria is concerned. Cash flow, return, value add opportunities. Now the next thing I look at, outside the financials, I always want to make sure, is this property in a safe and affordable market? That is key. Now you might be thinking, well, hey Juan, I found this great 3-unit and it's cash flowing like crazy, amazing return, but it's in the D as in duck down area, D as in dangerous area, D as in don't invest in that market. Why? Because it's not all about the money, right? It's not all about the financials. There will be headaches in regards to management. And you might, rebuttal, well, Juan, who cares? I'm not managing it. I'm not hiring a property manager. Well, guess what? I've had that issue in which I bought a property. It was my second property, and I wasn't familiar with the neighborhood. Wholesaler sold me the deal. I just took his word for it. I didn't perform proper due diligence. That's phase 3, right? We're in phase 2 right now. But long story short, I ended up buying a property in a bad neighborhood, and now I have break-ins after break-ins. Just teenagers who want to break in and just hang out. So that means I gotta continue to repair the locks, I gotta repair the windows, I gotta repair the door. Just over nonsense. Or cars will be stolen and so forth, and tenants will move out because they don't want to put up with that. Or you may attract a less desirable tenant as a result of them wanting to live in a D area. So that's the second thing I focus on. Buying a property in a safe and affordable market. You gotta have both. You gotta be safe as well as affordable. So you might be thinking, well, Juan, there's no multi-unit properties in my area, in my backyard, that are safe and affordable. Well, join the club. I was the same way. I lived in the New York, New Jersey area. I owned a duplex, and I wanted to buy another duplex in New Jersey, but the duplex I just purchased was $350,000. Now I was able to acquire it because I used FHA. Only 3.5% was required. But when I wanted to buy another duplex, guess what? It cost $350,000. But this time, as an investment property, I can't put down 3.5%. I have to put down 20%. So what's 20% of $350,000? That's $70,000. At the time, I didn't have $70,000 because I was making about $39,000 a year at that time. So I had to explore other markets, right? And that's one of the things we do for our clients. We help them, to obtain cash flowing multi-unit properties in safe and affordable areas. Now, the other criteria that I look for when buying multi-unit properties, I want to make sure that that's a share has to be affordable. But I look at somewhat of the price per door, right? And I also see if it's an emerging market. So that's key as well, because I want to make sure that, hey, it is affordable now, it's cash flowing now, but is the market that I'm investing in on the upswing? Is there any potential based upon economic board development for them to do any improvements to the area, to invest some dollars into that area. So that way it can affect the value add opportunity, which I said is a natural appreciation of that market. Are there any jobs coming into that market? Because where jobs are, people are. And if there's more people in a stagnant supply of housing, economics tells us that the price goes up, your value goes up. So those are some of the things I look for when analyzing a deal for multi-unit properties. Now, if you're curious of learning more or obtaining the financing, the education, or just need some help pretty much in you acquiring multi-unit properties. Because if you do multi-unit instead of single family, guess what? The same amount of time it takes for you to do a single family property is the same amount of time it takes you to do a multi-unit. What's the difference between a 1 unit and a 10 unit? Just a 0. Same time frame. Only difference is you'll get to financial freedom much faster. Multi-units is the fastest way to financial freedom. So if you're interested in learning more, just check our resources below. We would love to help. By the way, guys, please like, share, and subscribe this video to others in which you think they can benefit, and we definitely appreciate your viewership. Greatly appreciate it. As always, guys, to your success, continue to earn passively and live passionately. Peace.